When I was 5 years old, my best friend Clay switched schools because a placement test that he took determined that he belonged in the gifted and talented, or otherwise known as GATE program, but not just one at our school, but the full-time one that was offered at the school down the street. So he switched schools. When I was 6, my friend Petra disappeared one day a week to go to GATE class. And I didn't even know what that meant, but it just meant that she was gone all day. And then when I was 7, I finally took the same test, was pulled into this different classroom, and the performance on the test I was given determined the academic path I would be on for the rest of my time in the Boise School District. Speaking from both my personal experience as well as research, I believe elementary school students should not be placed into GATE programs. GATE program selection at such a young age is biased and subjective and can create unnecessary anxiety for students selected for these programs. While there can be some benefits of GATE programs, elementary school is not the time to implement them. Research has proven that students put in GATE programs that early on is mainly based on class as well as race and less on merit. Associate Professor of Public Policy and Education at Vanderbilt explained that a student from a family in the top 20% of socioeconomic status is more than 6 times more likely to receive gifted services than a student in the bottom 20% in a 2019 Vanderbilt News article. This proves that situation plays a huge role in who gets selected into these GATE programs early on. For example, my friend Clay's mom was an English teacher, and Clay learned how to read before kindergarten, and so therefore the kids that knew how to read got immediately put in this GATE program. And had his mom not been a teacher, he wouldn't have probably made it in. Journalist Emily Pierce looked into the ties between race and acceptance into GATE programs in her 2022 article, Gifted and Talented Programs, What Parents Should Know, and found that according to U.S. Department of Education data, Black students make up 15% of overall student population, but only 8% of the gifted and talented student population. So both race and class are uncontrollable factors for little kids. And it's also hard to place little kids based on just their intelligence alone because they're so young, they can't really advocate for themselves. And it's not fair to put them into these gifted and talented programs so early on when the biggest factor of how they're going to get in is class and race, both things that they can't really control. Next, there are a lot of psychological effects that come with being in the GATE program, especially this early, and for students that aren't old enough, and mature enough to be able to handle like kind of what comes with it. In her 2019 TEDx talk, GATE student Ava Eckhart shares how she and her peers felt forced to live up to the label of gifted, even though we didn't feel all that different from everyone else. And this early pressure is not just felt with her and her friends, but I've also seen that to be true with my friends in my community. Because we're kind of set to this different standard. Oh, you are gifted, you better be gifted in every aspect of your life. Maybe you're really good at math, but because you have this GATE title, attached to your name, your peers see you as gifted, your teachers see you as gifted, you better perform in English, you better perform in math, you better perform in science, even if those really aren't your strengths. And it kind of creates this culture where you constantly feel like you're battling perfection, which isn't really healthy for elementary school kids to have to deal with that early on. And so finally, many people would obviously argue that the whole reason for GATE is because more advanced students will get bored with grade level curriculum. And I agree, that's true. And it's also good for students to be able to explore and have the resources to continue their education if they're a little bit higher than grade level. In their book, Education of the Gifted and Talented, academics Davis, Rim, and Siegel argued that a lack of challenges in school curriculum presents risk factors for underachieving students. And so obviously more resources are beneficial for students, and it's just a matter of when they're implemented. A lot of people are pushing students ahead in elementary school, and while I do think the challenge is good for them, it's also just not worth it because of, like we've already talked about, the amount of uncontrollable factors that go into putting something in this GATE program will end up with people that shouldn't be in it probably being in it, and those that should be in it not being in it. So my solution would be to test later and to test more fairly. Terry Burns, legislative advocate for the California Association for the Gifted, points out that when you test all kids, inevitably you'll pick some kids that you never expected. So she's basically saying that you need to test everybody. And a lot of school systems don't do that. And a lot of it is based on, your parents advocating for you, is your teacher advocating for you, and not just a straight up test. So testing all students is the bare minimum, but waiting until they're older ensures that they're tested fairly and not on how well their parents prepared them. Even if everybody was tested, but when they're 5 years old, some parents are going to be able to prepare their kids better than others just because they have the resources at their disposal. So the three people I talked about earlier, Clay, Petra, and myself, have stuck together through countless advanced classes, standardized tests, and AP exams, and this path we were put on in the first 3 years of our elementary school has followed us all the way to graduation, when in May we all graduated together in the top 5% of our class. In August, Clay is heading to USC and Petra is heading to Duke. But I can't help but wonder, what if it hadn't been us? We were the lucky ones. We were in the right place with the right skin color at the right time and with the right people advocating for our success. But some of our classmates weren't so lucky. So while the GATE program has benefits, the students chosen for it shouldn't be based on situation, and they shouldn't be selected until they're old enough to advocate for themselves. The opportunity to have extra resources at your disposal should be something that you should be able to earn, and it's not given just because of uncontrollable factors. Thank you.